And we're back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the space.
What's happening?
Hey, Piggy. How's the crack?
Hello.
Hello.
I, I, I thought there was a wee woman on the space. That turns out just Ocean.
Wise up.
Piggy, we can hear you whispering.
I'm not trying to take off the whisper to him. Like,
welcome, Ocean, to the space. The star of the show. The reason we watch the Piggy Band series. Right. So let me just give it a couple more seconds for everyone to get in. We've no celebrities in this time, which is a shame. Thank you, Han, for the quote. So, Grant, mate, how are you? What's the crack with you?
I'm really good. Thanks for inviting me into the chat tonight. We're looking forward to talking all things Irish League with you.
don't let that Carson boy speak tonight. He's a mouthpiece.
To be fair, he's a Stewart element, so we give him some leeway. Like, so he has a hangout. He's a hangout with the Stewart lads all day. I don't think the fourth guy is going to join. He said he might be a bit late, to be fair. So right, so I think we'll start it then. Go ahead, like. Right, so Piggy, do you want to start us off with Korean here?
No worries. Oh, Shane, do you want to tell me about the Korean match last night? Was it a good performance, Korean?
Yeah.
Who's your man of the match?
Matthew Shevlin.
How good was he?
Brilliant.
And what about the Carrick fans? Were they good?
Nah, rat bags.
Rat bags. Yeah, I don't expect that. Nah, Korean were good last night, but you know what? Carrick were very good as well. Carrick created, like, I'd say 5 really good chances, and if it wasn't for goal line clearances and
They'd probably win.
Korean keeper was very good, it might not have been a Korean one.
Carrick got quality say, like, to be fair. Like, they gave us a Scott Solitude. Grant, mate, do you have anything to say on the Korean game?
I saw the game, and I have to say, I know it's early stages in the season, fellas, but Matthew Shevlin is just on another planet right now. I mean, the hat-trick last night, coupled with the 2 goals he scored last weekend, I mean, just fantastic. I mean, Oren Kearney must be absolutely delighted with the contribution that he's made so far into the season. I agree with you, Peaky. I thought Carrick played really well. I think some of their signings that Kingy's brought in have been very astute. They do need to sharpen up at the back, though. That's my biggest concern with Carrick. But Coleraine looked really good. I must admit, I wasn't sure what Coleraine would do this season. But early stages, they look on another planet right now.
Sheldon and McLaughlin have been class for them, like, so. I heard Conor McDermott is playing well, isn't he, Piggy?
He is indeed. Shows what happens when somebody has a bit of love.
I also think as well, and maybe Peaky might agree or not with this, but I think Jamie Glacken looks rejuvenated this season as well.
He did, and I did one of them question and answers for one of them Instagram accounts, and it says Glacken's the man to watch out for, and he needs to add more goals to his game. And this season, he's got 2 goals in 3 games.
He looks sharp as well and around the box, and you made a really good point on the Gallagher save. I mean, that was just an outstanding save, because if Curtis Allen nets that chance, suddenly it's game back on, and it could have been a bit of a grandstand finish. So that was an important moment in the game. But I just think Shevlin, I think was it not last season, he was really good for certainly a good first third of the season, maybe even half of it. And then he kind of dried up. His goals sort of dried up a little bit, and that's kind of really in keeping with when Coleraine sort of stuttered a little bit, don't you think? I thought it was really, really good last night.
Yeah, what happened last year, and people not agree with me, but half the team were allowed to go on a wee mid-season holiday, and they came back and they were crap after it.
I also think Oren Kearney deserves a lot of credit as well, because I felt going into the start of this season, there was a lot of Coleraine supporters that maybe were just a little bit frustrated with what had happened towards the end of the season, particularly after losing the League Cup final to Cliftonville. And their season sort of, I don't know, but it's just my opinion, but I thought their season sort of tailed off a little bit. But certainly this season, they've come out the traps flying. I think Lee Lynch has been a really astute signing. Young McLaughlin as well looks really sharp. And the thing is, Coleraine have got 9 points out of 9. And yet I still think, and maybe you'll agree, PK, I don't know, but I think there's room for you guys to get even better.
Definitely. If that's us when the teams just literally met each other, what happens when they actually get to know each other? It could be a very good season.
Yeah, Piggy, me and you of all people should know that second season syndrome is a thing. Like season before, Coleraine finished second. Now, the season after, last season, they finished sixth. So, it can't just switch like that.
But that team last season needed it. It needed sort of new players, and we didn't really get it. We got McKendry, but we lost Doherty. So we did go into last season, and we also lost Cannon, Snowy. So we did go into last season weaker, and there was players with injuries. Trainer missed a lot of the season. Then when he came back in, he just wasn't on it. So it just wasn't. It was just everything was crap. But I know we've lost Skinner. Oisin says.
Who cares? Red card 4 minutes in.
Get Skinner on the space.
Just a word on Trainer. I mean, nothing against Aaron Trainer. I think he was a really solid fullback, but I do think McDermott is a massive improvement on the left side of that defence. I thought Lyndon Kane was outstanding last season on the right-hand side of that back four. But I just felt the left side was a bit of a weakness for Coleraine, particularly in some of the kind of European games that I watched a couple of years ago. I remember in particular the Motherwell game in particular. I thought they were a little bit open at the back. But I think McDermott, with the experience of being involved in a Cliftonville side that were really challenging on all fronts last season, Kearney was very astute with that signing. I actually think that might be quite a very surprising good signing. He really will be one to keep an eye on for sure.
Putting McDermott in there has allowed Lyndon Kane to go into a midfield role, and his energy's brilliant in there. Jarvis is the left back, and he's solid.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a versatility with Coleraine that they maybe haven't had last season, perhaps.
100%.
I agree.
So there's not much more you can say about Coleraine, but you could say plenty about Carrick. Honestly, God, I was so surprised, and they're not going to struggle this year. They'll easily finish, 8th or 9th, I'd imagine.
What I wanted to say about Carrick as well is, what I like about Stuart King is he really wants to build a really strong spine of his team. Glenn Denning is a very astute goalkeeper, did really well at Ballymena. You've got Jim Irvin, who's been there, seen it, done it in a Carrick shirt. Surgeoner, obviously, I believe, wasn't playing last night because he was sent off against Cliftonville. But you have that spine throughout the team. Mitchell's a big signing in midfield. You've got Curtis, who's always going to score goals. Cushley's been there, seen it, done it for Crusaders. These are guys that are experienced players that have been there and have got a lot of kind of experience and knowledge of playing at a decent level. And when you're in a scrap down that bottom end of the table, that experience, I think, gathers you over the course of a season at least 3 to 6 points. And I think Carrick, with the way they play under Stuart King anyway, they will score goals. The question I have is, will they keep the door shut at the back? Carrick last season, the reason they were safe was they got their points nice and early, but they were also really good defensively. This season is going to be interesting because towards the end of last season, they didn't pick up as many points, and also they lost a wee bit more goals. So that's something I think they do need to address. But that win against Newry on the opening day will help, and that results they'll have against Dungannon, Portadown, and Newry as well, and maybe a couple others as well. They will pick up points against some of the better teams as well in this league, and they'll be ones to watch, as you said, Peaky.
Yeah, and they seem to be really good at set pieces. They like every set piece they hit last night, they were getting an effort and target. Or near the target anyway. They were winning their headers, you know. I think they won games because of their set pieces. They'll win games because they will score goals from set pieces.
I also think as well, Jordan Gibson I thought was going to be a big loss when he left to join Ballymena. I thought he was really good last season. You've always have Lloyd Anderson, who was really good as well. Alex gone. Obviously, Stuart Nixon's injured at the moment, but Carrick really missed his kind of quality in the middle of the pitch. But I feel, some of the signings they made, particularly Mitchell, who's, had a really good career in the Irish League, was very good for Larne times last season, probably underused, in my opinion, by Larne at times. I think that's a really clever signing, and he'll be a big player in Carrick's season for me, out of all the signings Stuart King's made.
Aye. They've got leaders, don't they? Like Larne or Carrick have leaders throughout the team now.
Yeah.
Right, if you don't mind, we're gonna go take some requests now. So Anthony, I seen you requested here a while ago. So welcome to the space. There we go. You can speak now. Hello.
I was at the game last night. It was a good game. Very tough. I thought at the start, at the first half, it was when Cushley scored that penalty. That was not a penalty, in my opinion, because Krangle is a donut. Anyway, but Matthew Shevlin is going to be a big game player this season. Unreal, but I do see us challenging this year, and I can agree on Piggy's thoughts on Carrick. Carrick's a strong side this year, I think, and yeah, it's good signings they brought in, and then Glacken played well. Everyone played well, in my opinion. Just two sloppy goals to see. Well, Curtis Allen came and humped us, but anyway, all I can say is that was the good performance, in my opinion.
Anthony, you see there, I actually clean forgot about that penalty. I don't know what Raymond was on there. Like, we've seen the replays there. The BBC footage shows the whole box. And like, we were behind the goal. And, like, I don't know what he gave a penalty for. And
I don't think that's a penalty either.
It's not a penalty.
No, I talked to Raymond after the game because me and Oisin stayed behind. He actually started choking after the game, so we were trying to revive him. But Raymond came out, and I says, Raymond, what was that there? He goes, you didn't see it? And I says, no, I was watching the ball. He says, your man was pulled down. And I looked at the footage this morning, and I was like, he wasn't pulled down. I don't know. Raymond's funny. He likes to be the main man. And I think he knew Korean were running away with the game at that stage, and he used any excuse to keep the game alive.
Aye.
Alright, if you don't mind, I have a message here from Redhand that says Carrick started last season very well but fell off massively. They need to avoid doing that again if they want to be a surprise package.
I totally agree with that. Anthony, I wanted to ask you a question actually. What has Matthew Shevlin done at the start of this season to rediscover the form that he had at the start of last season?
I don't think. I don't honestly know, but I think Shevlin. I think he's just. I think this last season, like you said before, he had a good couple of games, but then he stopped scoring, which I was not happy with, and then everyone kept slabbering him, saying, "We need another striker," blah blah blah, or crap. But I think Matthew Shevlin will improve. It has improved since last season, and I think he's a player. He's definitely a player to look out for.
Grant, I think the players around him are helping him as well. Like you see the likes of the energy around. There's chances being created for him, and I think that makes a difference. Like Shevlin he'll get shots away every game. His confidence is high, so they're going in at the minute. Like,
yeah. I also think as well, do you not think him dropping out of a maybe inverted commas bigger team like Linfield to come to Coleraine where he is seen as the main man, the main number 9? Do you think that's taken the pressure off him a little bit?
I don't know. I didn't know anything about Shevlin before he came to Coleraine. Like, I knew he came from Linfield and he was at Ballymena, but he never ever seen him standing out in a match. So I knew very little about him. And then he had the half season at Coleraine, and you could see he had something about him. And last season, you could see, he's got a good pace and a good eye for goal. And what he's adding to his game now is he's able to hold the ball up, which last season he couldn't.
But yeah, that's all I can say about Coleraine last night. I think Roland Glenavon hopefully smashed him. So
I have a message here from a Glenavon fan actually. He says, Shevlin, big game player, scored against bottom 2 sides. I don't watch a lot of Coleraine, but surely he will need to score in the big games if Coleraine are to go on the charge for the title. That's what he said though.
Did he not score against Cliftonville?
In the cup final last year, yeah. That's not my words, that is his words. So
okay. But anyway, that's me done. And Owen, you're doing a good job. And keep up.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
Here, the Glenavon fans saying that he's only scored against the teams at the bottom league. Well, he'll score against Glenavon then.
I hope. I need to get him in my fantasy team. That's for sure.
Don't talk about fantasy football. I was going to put him in last night. Realised I had Lynch and McDermott in already, and changed my mind. Put in McCartan instead. Schoolboy blunder.
Alright, so I think we'll move on to the Clonmel match now, right? So I'll just handle this one then. I think Clonmel last night played very good. It was a big improvement from the Carrick game, and obviously the Coleraine game as well. Like, we generally could have scored 4 or 5 in our first half. But like, it was just a couple of mistakes, bit of fuck up in the back line. Just got Ballymena the equaliser, which was a screamer, by the way. Fair play. But yeah, anyway, we played really well on the ground we don't play really well in. So yeah, I'm just proud of the performance, pretty much.
One thing I wanted to ask you on Cliftonville, what's your thoughts on Luke Turner? Getting on the score sheet last night, getting him back from Aberdeen, that's got to be one of your best signings of the summer, no?
I'd agree, and what surprised me about Luke Turner in the last game was that he was playing left back. He's actually very good. Like, he's probably our best young prospect at the moment, and most likely going to go in the summer. Yeah, Luke Turner's saying, like, bloody hell. I still can't believe he rejected Nottingham Forest for us. He rejected a Premier League team. That's how big we are. Kicker match. Do you have anything to say?
The funny thing about the Cliftonville game is that I think from an outsider's point of view, you're seeing it, and it's a 2-1 win away. You're 1-1. You get that goal from a cross where everyone seems to miss it, and Turner whacks it in. I think I'm probably one of them. I'm looking at that going, most of these games could have went one way or the other, and it looks like a slow start. But ultimately, you're sitting there with 6 points out of 9, and bar a very impressive Coleraine side, you're rising to every task.
We're still up there, pretty much.
Like, from your perspective, are you looking at this from a point of view that I'm really worried about how we're going, or do you feel like this is us being a bit shaky, wait until we get fully all guns blazing?
Yeah, no, the thing is, at the start of the season, I predicted Clonmel to win the league, like a lot of other people. But, yeah, that's not going to happen now. We have Ives injured. he was walking out of crutches against Carrick, and we have Malin injured. He went off. So that's two key players injured. So I think we're going to win the league now. So like, as long as we just get Europe and a trophy, I'm happy.
There'll be other teams sitting there thinking they can smell blood, are they? With players like that out. Like so if you lose Malin, who's jumping in for Ives long term? And is there
Luke
any
Turner.
news? So Luke Turner's filling that spot.
Aye.
And then for Malin, is there a replacement that you feel happy with, or does it significantly weaken the team?
Well, of course, Malin's a quality player. He had Jesus on strings last week, but when he went off, they subbed McDonough on. So I feel like Paddy was only trying to play one at a time, and so far in the season. So yeah, we have Malin off, yeah, but McDonough's on. So like it's good. We have someone.
Yeah, and I think most of us who had a look at McDonough thinking, he's a cert for our fantasy team. Hopefully, he'll start getting all the points that he hasn't been so far.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, because McDonough was really one of the kind of starlets of the league last season, wasn't he? I mean, some quality goals he scored.
27 assists.
Unbelievable. I tell you, I this really doesn't surprise me nowadays, but I just think it's quite incredible to see this guy going from strength to strength. Ryan Curran, he's just such an incredible player. I mean, that guy just does not know how to not score goals. He's just incredible. He's such a big game player now, just taking the heat off people like Joe Gormley. Such a big game player.
I love Ryan Curran. Like, I still from time to time watch highlights when he scored like the 2 goals in a minute against Glenavon. Sorry, Glenavon fans here. But like Ryan Curran's like I'd say he's our best striker. What impresses me about him is not his goal scoring ability, it's his work rate. He's always defending. Like every time you see him, he's just defending. I actually love him.
How much of an influence do you think Joe's had on his career so far?
Joe. I couldn't tell you. I think Ryan would better tell you himself. He follows me on this account, so hopefully he joins a space one time.
Yeah, he's quite an exciting player. I'm worried a little bit at the start of the season for Clifton. I'm going to be honest with you, because the season you guys had last season, where you were competing on all fronts, you won the League Cup in the manner that you did. You were very much in the league, in the Irish Cup, beaten in the semi-finals. You came so close to winning the league. I was kind of questioning, can you go that distance again? Can you attack on all fronts? And when you lost the first game against Coleraine, I thought, big question marks about stamina and whether these guys have the fight to go again. But that Carrick win at the weekend was impressive, especially coming from behind, because that could have been a big disappointment if you hadn't got anything out of that game. Even a point, I thought, would have been a bit of a disappointment. That's a big win last night, because Ballymena a lot of people are looking at Ballymena saying they're going to be in the top 6 race. They're going to be right in there. Davy Jeffries made some big signings. Henderson made a brilliant goal last night, by the way, by young Henderson. But that's a statement win. Not many teams will go to Ballymena and win.
Yeah. Of course, after the season like that, like it's hard to pick yourselves up again. Like if we won the league, like maybe we would have had to run Linfield's having right now. But like that's that. Like after you come so close, like it's just hard to mentally pick yourself back up again.
That's exactly my point.
So we're going to take some requests here from any Clinmuller or Ballymena fans. If you want to come in and have your say, or if you want to DM either me or Peaky here, then just go ahead, sure. We'll just wait a wee bit. There's a wee spat between Ballymena and Glenavon fans in the comments here.
Well, interesting. Let's talk a little bit about Ballymena. What have you guys made of their start? Because they were 2-0 up against Glenavon and only got a point. They won at Dungannon, which is a decent result, and they lost last night. Is it fair to say that Ballymena's start has been just okay?
Yeah. Go on, Peaky. Go on, kick him out.
It feels like not that there's any games there where you're thinking, oh, they should be running away with results, but the manner of last night, you'd think they would like a run a wee bit closer. The thing is with Ballymena, I feel they've got really solid, flashy players, and I think if there's one thing so far we've seen that they have a soft underbelly. So while they can flash and they can impress and they can do brilliant things going forward, it's at the back, which is where they're not coming across as steely. If you were to sit there and go, right, who is Ballymena's top midfielder? I think that's the weakest part of their team. It's centre midfield. They don't have either an anchor point or a big number 10 who's linking everything together.
For me, their big player in midfield in terms of a destructor is Kim Nelson. I think Kim is so important for Ballymena in the centre of the pitch. Every time he was playing, certainly for Ards, he was such an important player. But I agree with you to a large extent about the defensive side of the game, and I just wonder how big a signing getting Sean O'Neill will be long term. As I know he's the keeper, but in terms of a leadership at the back, he's such a big player who's been there, seen and done it. You've got the likes of Keeley still there, Loughran there. They're big players, but they're also a little bit inexperienced, especially Keeley, even though he's been very good over the last couple of seasons. They're going to be huge, I think, for Ballymena.
I think that's it. I do agree with you. It's about blending that, and I think they'll be better as the season goes on. Well, they'll hope so, and it's probably the big games. I don't really remember massively. Like, it feels like Ballymena are a team that, they get the goal up against Cliftonville, but they don't finish it off. And if they want to move up the table, they need to be getting points out of games like this. And as much as, look, the lose against Cliftonville, at the start of the season, it's not the worst thing, but you're probably already looking as if it's 2 points lost, particularly in the first game of the season. And they could have got one there. There's 3 points broadly. And if you start to put that across the season, that's what chips away at your ability to really fight for that top six.
Yeah, I totally agree. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, the Glenavon game's the killer because you 2-0 up. Okay, it's back to 2-1 before half-time, and I thought it was a cheap goal that Ballymena lost to go back to 2-1. Then they get the two-man advantage. You must see the game out from that position, and it's a shocking defensive mistake that allows Glenavon the chance to get a point. From being 2-0 up, that's got to be a major disappointment. And you've got to say, I'm going to say this as well, credit to Glenavon for coming back with 9 men. I must say that. But if you're a Ballymena fan and you were at that game, you've got to be disappointed you didn't get maximum points from the position you were in there. That, for me, is a bigger disappointment than last night. Although I feel if Ballymena are wanting to get that step up to get into that top 6 and be fighting there regularly and consistently, that's the sort of games that I agree with you. They need to be picking up points. But let's be honest, Ballymena have had Cliftonville's, not number, but they've been fairly good against them at home. I remember last season, were they not 2-0 down and got 2 late goals to get a point? I think one of them was a late penalty, if I remember correctly. So, that's the sort of things that they're capable of. But Davy's a good manager. He'll get them, fighting hard, and they'll still be a very tough side to beat this season. There's no doubt about
that. Yeah. I've just been alerted to the Lawn Academy player, Ethan Simpson, on the space. So welcome, Ethan. So I got a DM here from a Glenavon fan, and he says it on Ballymena here. Ballymena have a bit more ball and inconsistency. I think the difference between Glenavon and Ballymena is Glenavon have Campbell and Fitzpatrick, who can turn a game on its head. Ballymena have more flashy players and arguably a better team, but they don't seem to be as good together. And I'd agree with that, to be honest.
I really succinct. I would, particularly on the Glenavon side of things, I absolutely think he's right. And I would also add in Danny Wallace to that to just complete the spine there.
Totally.
That's what they do have. That's why oddly you will. I know I could pinpoint it, but we all will remember the odd amazing Glenavon win or performance or getting the draw against a Ballymena down to 9 men because they just have a spark like Fitzpatrick and Campbell who can do that. Who's the player that's going to do that for Ballymena? Maybe McDade, a brilliant Stephen McCulloch free kick, But that's why I feel Ballymena are going to be probably better in the long run, because they will become a better, stronger team, and that's what you need across 38 games.
I really like Parkhouse. I don't know what's sort of happened to him. Maybe he kind of floats in and out. But certainly for Derry City, he was a big player for them. I don't know, maybe he works better as a solitary striker, or maybe he works better with that partnership with McDaid. I don't know. Maybe that's something that Davey needs to find the right blend with. But, in terms of big game players, he's, for one, is the player that I can think of. But I think you're right there. I think, Josh Kelly, I think it's a big season for Josh Kelly. He's a guy that, I've spoken to for my own podcast in the past. He's such a really positive fella. And, he's obviously had that injury last season. I think this is the season where we'll maybe see the best of Josh Kelly. I think he could be a bit of a game player, but he needs to be playing in the right position, and I'm not sure what that is, to be honest with
you. Right. So just before we move on to the next game, I just have a DM here from a Newry fan who says, "What's the thoughts on Newry's chances of staying up after the first 2 games?"
You want to go first on that one, kicking match?
Yes. By the way, my name's Peter. If anybody, I know it's weird to say kicking match, I just jumped on this one. Let's go. So we can all go Peter here. I think I'm like the big flag waver for Newry, and I think the big question will be for Newry if they want to stay up. One, how do they fancy playing against Anna over 2 legs? Because that might be the big decider. I think they've got brilliant players going forward. If anybody saw that Linfield game, they give Linfield a better game than Portadown did, and that's because they have these exciting players. McGovern, Logan Ford, I really like. Thielen is also, he strings things together and runs at fullbacks. Compared to particularly Portadown and at the minute Dungannon, it feels like when you're down at the bottom, it's going to be the random wins that helps you stick up, and if you can beat the other teams. I think Newry are, like I said at the start of the season, I think they're probably 11th, but it's about probably staying injury-free, and it's really about how weak that defence is. I feel like Ballymena somewhat is a glass cannon, and they're now just about shooting themselves at the back. Newry are like the definition of a glass cannon. It's about stopping those goals going in, and can they outscore? I don't know how they can shore up, because that's an experienced back line, but it'll be exciting being a Newry fan, because I think even when they're down by a goal or 2, I think Darren Mullins is going to fire men forward and go for it, because he knows that's our tactic and we're going to stick with it.
I think, just to continue on from your point there, I personally think if Newry are going to stay up, it's simply down to Darren Mullen. I think Darren Mullen is, in my personal opinion, and I've only been following the league for a very short period of time, I think he's one of the best coaches in the country. I really think he's such a good coach. He's well driven. They were obviously in the top flight. Many managers in the past, or many clubs in the past, would have changed manager when a side had been relegated from the top flight, like Newry were. But Newry stuck to their principles. They kept Darren in the job. He got them back up to the Premiership this season. And I think Newry as a team will learn from that experience. I think Darren Mullen as a coach will learn from that experience of going out of the league last season. I mean, I watched that Linfield game on Sunday, and I thought Newry were really good. The only difference in the game for me was that I thought Linfield were much more clinical with the chances that they had, and Newry unfortunately were not. But that's a learning experience. You get more chances in the Championship probably, and you maybe not as punished as severely in there as you are in the Premiership. But I'm going to be honest, and I did this in my predictions at the start of the season. I have Newry 10th. I do think they will survive. It's going to be that head-to-heads against your Portadowns, your Dungannons, your Carricks, but Darren Mullen is so important for Newry if they're going to stay in the league. That would be my biggest concern, is if a manager, say, not just in that league, but out with the league, loses a manager, Darren Mullen will be right up the top of that list, because he's such a good coach and he's well received. And I just genuinely think Newry should be grateful that he's still there.
I believe Newry will stay up as well, to be honest. I predict them to have 10th. But I also predict the Carrick Rangers to go down, so that just shows what I know.
Guys, I've had a few private messages here from Glenavon fans that said, can we please talk about Portadown now?
Alright, just before we do that, Peter here, I have messages from like multiple people asking what club you support. You want to say?
You know what? I knew this will eventually come. I think I'm just gonna have to plead the fifth, one way or the other. So you can suggest one way or the other, but I'm just gonna say yes or I'm not gonna say yes or no to any, and I'm just being coy about it. Like there's no, I don't think I'll be a big secret eventually, but I'll be coy about it for now.
I think he's a closet Ballyclare Comrades fan. Get that feeling from him.
Not Breda. That's probably the closest one to where I probably live, but
he's Belfast. Poor soul. Alright, so we'll grant the Glenavon fans' wishes and we'll move on to the Portadown Crusaders game. So does anyone want to talk about that?
Can I talk about it? Portadown are getting relegated. They are crap.
I was actually so sad when Crusaders made that comeback. Like if any team would be Crusaders, it would be Portadown. I would have loved for that to happen, but it wasn't meant to be. So it is what it is.
Like, what was it? I was seeing the tweets coming in, and you see, Portadown have scored. Wow, early on, and they get a penalty. Fair enough. And then you see the Crusaders are down to 10 men at home, and you think, oh my goodness, could this be on? What's this going to be? And just by chance, just with work and stuff, I've seen Portadown twice, both other games that Portadown have played. I didn't see the game last night or anything, just saw the highlights. But I saw it and thought, oh my goodness, could Portadown actually do here? This is going to be a really bad result for Crusaders. And then you're checking the other games, you just see all the little things pick up, and you're just like, chance for Heatley, chance for Laurie, and you're like, wow, and it sounded so Crusaders are all over Portadown, and they have 10 men. Like, that is surprising. And then you see the goal go in, and when I saw that, I just thought this is not going to go well for Portadown, because they're going to capitulate. Like, I remember that Glenavon game, was it the Boxing Day one, where they lost to 9 men of Glenavon, but the difference there was that Glenavon were a goal ahead and they just sat back and held on. This is 11 against 10 and you were winning, and all you had to do was not stop the 10 men scoring for 60 minutes, and they let them score twice. Like that, okay, here's an example, and I want to put this to Vicky. Imagine this is some sort of fantasy All-Ireland league, right? And you are against the best team in the league is Shamrock Rovers, and you go 1-0 up ahead against the best team in the league, Shamrock Rovers, and they're down to 10 men. Even in that scenario where you're against the top team and you maybe aren't near the top, losing in that scenario is massively embarrassing. There's no other way of putting it.
Yep, but you know what? Like, Portadown, like, we seen them on Saturday. They didn't have anything about them. They're just crap.
Like, I heard Doolan do an interview, and he said that they were trying to get Irish League players, and people are quoting them 20 and 50K, and I don't know who these players are, but Jordan Jenkins seems to be the guy that's their striker that's going to try and get them goals, something they struggled for last season, particularly after Bonus left. And like, is there nobody else? Does nobody else want to go to Portadown when everybody else seems to have, like, Curtis? If you pick the bottom 4 teams and you go, who's going to score the goals for them? Right now for Carrick, it looks like it's going to be Allen and Cushley. For Newry, it's going to be McGovern and Ford and Thielen. For Dungannon, it's McBreen and Campbell and potentially McCready. Portadown have, yes, of course, right? Like, can anybody name me a Portadown midfielder? Like, I know they're all pretty much new. Well, Austin Connolly is a player who is a young player, isn't he? And I don't really know. I've seen him play out wide for them. I've seen him play up top for them. And And it's not like it's not like he's getting into the Ballymena team. There's George Tipton, who played a fair bit for Portadown near the end of last season, and he's not getting into the Ballymena team. I don't think he's really getting on the bench. Well, he was on the bench, but he's struggling. So everybody from Pinky saying they were dreadful, and Linfield fans seem to not say many good things about them. And like from an outsider looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, they're maybe growing into things and Doolan's team, but somewhat. But when you can't score goals and you can't stop 10 men scoring against you, I got stick from Portadown fans when I was at the game saying you're awfully down on them. You have to see the positives here. What positives are you supposed to take out of losing 2-0 over against a team of 10 men? I know they've got better players. I know Philip Lowry's better. I know Paul Hitty's amazing. I know they've got a better team. But if Dungannon was against Linfield and Dungannon was 1-0 up, yes, at Windsor, you need to at least get a draw there, surely. Or you're relegated.
I think we know which team kicking match. I think we know which team Peter supports here. Talking about Portadown as much.
Like, because sadly, I'm not going to the big games. I'm going to Newry against whoever. But like for Crusaders, it just shows how good they are. That they're able to physically take down a team. I don't know what positives do you take out of that if you're a Crusaders fan.
Well, the man just scored when they were like at a man less. So
the big thing that I took from that game last night was how poor the Portadown goals they gifted, the Crusaders goals Portadown gifted were. I mean, the first one is a corner, and it's kind of pinball in the box, and they don't react. And Lowry puts it in the back of the net, and then when you've got someone like Johnny McMurray, the quality that he has, you can't be giving him time and space to score that opportunity. I mean, what I will say is I thought Portadown, took advantage of what I thought was a pretty fortuitous sending off. I mean, it is a penalty kick. I don't think we can disagree with that. That's my opinion. I think it's a penalty. And I don't think it's a red card.
It's absolutely not a red card.
I mean, it's a double jeopardy thing. For me, it's a penalty. That's all it is. And I think with that little bit of luck that Portadown get, that's got to be the disappointment. As you say, Peter, a goal up with a man advantage, you should be looking to kind of, at least hold on for a draw. The Crusaders at Seaview are going to have a bit of a go. They've got players that can turn a match. But this is a Crusaders team that were missing some players last night as well. So, that's got to be a bit of a disappointment for Paul Doolan and his team.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Doolan gets sacked by like January or some shit. Like, all I'm going to say, listening to all your reviews for Portadown, I cannot wait to play them. I am triple cutting them here.
Like, if there's anything to be said, maybe they all need to blend together. Like Doolan said, they're strangers, and maybe that's a thing for them. Maybe they do need to find somebody up top, and that could be the difference, perhaps.
When you're a team down at the bottom, you need your key players and your key leaders to stand up and be counted. Paddy McNally is such a big player for Portadown. He's coming back from a long-term injury. We don't know how fit Paddy is. I've spoke to Paddy before on my own podcast. A really great guy, a real winner. He was really disappointed to obviously miss the majority of last season with his injury. But he's such a big player. They kept hold of Jethro Barr, the goalkeeper. There was a lot of talk about him maybe moving in the summer. It never materialised. I thought personally when that was happening, I thought, Portadown are maybe making a bit of inroads here. They're keeping some of their key players who really kind of helped them out of the hole they were in last season. But it just hasn't happened for them.
It's strange because player for player, they're probably better than last season. Bar like bonus, but at the end of last season, they're somewhat better. They kept a lot of their players, and yeah, I mean, maybe they're just wrecked. Like the one thing that stood out to me, if you watch that second goal, is that like why did nobody take out McMurray? Like, they all seem to stand off him. It's like they were tired. And also, I have to make this one point, and I want the panel to tell me, how cringe is that Johnny McMurray celebration?
I didn't see it.
No, but
I'll be honest with
it's
you.
just like a thing he does. He takes his top and he spins it round so that he's got his like name on the front of his chest.
I've actually just got it live on a replay on my laptop as we're speaking. It's a very bizarre celebration.
Is that about him, or is it some awareness for some? Because I know that the Port Stewart players came out a game and they had their tops on backwards in pre-season or at the end of last season. Does it represent something?
Well, you've squandered me now, Picky, because that's it. I just thought that was like when players do that when they win the Champions League and they're like, "Hey, this is who this is who you got to recognize. I'm Real Madrid's backup left back." But I was just like, "What is this like a thing that he does?" He's like Mcmurray, and he gets a photograph with his top on his chest. If that's fair enough, it's a thing. That's grand. Maybe I'm just being too much of an old fogey.
Can I just come in on Crusaders, because I know we've talked a lot about Florida down there, but that was a good response from Crusaders off the back of losing that match against Glentoran on Friday. That was a pretty disappointing loss for Crusaders at the Oval. They go off to the good start and then obviously went and lost the game 3-1. And by the way, Robinson probably should have been sent off in that match and yet was sent off last night. So I guess it swings and roundabouts, but that was a dodgy game for them last night, especially after going a goal down and obviously the man down. And I think, personally, if you'd asked Stephen Baxter if he would take 6 points out of a possible 9, considering they had Glentoran in there, I think possibly they would have taken that. But we'd love to hear what Crusaders fans think of that.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Crusaders fans don't exist, so we can't have any on the space. So better luck next time. Right, so I think we'll move on to the last match of the day, and let me just make sure I have no DMs here. No, Piggy, do you have any DMs?
No, but there's serious concerns that we're turning into a serious football discussion show.
It's because I'm on, that's why.
It sounds like people know what they're talking about. This is a bit weird for us.
I'm not glad. I feel a wee bit intimidated here hearing you two speak.
I'm not at all, boys.
So of course, like the last match left of the week was Glentoran versus Dungannon. Well, like Glentoran won 1-0 due to a late penalty.
This is a huge win for Glentoran because, by all accounts, they were not good last night. They were huffing and puffing a wee bit. Dungannon, were really resolute. But sometimes when you're not playing well, all you have to do is get the job done, and that's exactly what Glentoran did.
Also, Carson, we're not talking about the championship. We'll do that next week. We have Premier Division games to talk about. So
here, Owen. Wait a minute. We can talk about the championship just briefly. There was a match on a Solitude last night. Can I mind? There was a wee team playing, and they were winning. I think it was 3-0 or 3-1, and they bottled it and they ended up drawing 3-0.
So who did that?
Institute.
So they bottled the 3-1 lead.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure Carson enjoyed that bus ride home. So of course, Peter. So of course, on the Glentoran game, I assume you've seen the penalty back. Like, was it a penalty? Was it not a penalty?
Okay. I've seen what a lot of people's reaction to this is, and I'm not trying to be a contrarian here. That is absolutely a penalty. I think so. The ball comes in and the defender dives in and ultimately he takes out Donnelly at the same time for me. Because he comes at such an awkward position.
I agree. Like, the first time watching it, I thought that was a spot-on penalty. So,
and you can...
Go on.
And you can sometimes slow it down and you can go, frame by frame, and then the ball comes here. But as much as he gets the ball, do you not think if he doesn't take out Donnelly there, Donnelly's still going to be able to get onto that ball and score? And also sometimes you have to do the ref test where you just have to look at it once and go, right, what do I do? What do I do? And decide one way or the other.
I think the interesting thing with that was that the referee initially gave it and then went to his linesman. And then it looked like after discussion that it was him that didn't think it was a penalty, and then he changed his mind. That was, for me, what looked quite bizarre. For the record, I thought both were penalties. Obviously, the one that Glentoran did get was definitely a penalty as well. But I thought the first one was a penalty too.
Has anybody seen the McCary alleged headbutt?
Oh, that's again.
Yes,
That's again.
yes. He dived at the player with his head. That is a
Head.
red card.
I didn't see that.
What do we think across the board? Do we agree with Dean Shields' assessment that he dived with his head towards the player on the ground?
All I'm going to
100%.
say is, thank Christ he didn't, because he's my highest scoring player in fantasy football.
It was certainly not clever, put it that way. And obviously, McCary, let's not be about the bush about this, has been involved in certain incidences in the past, which obviously there will people being here who will remember all that. But yeah, not very clever.
He likes a good scrap him.
Owen, you've got Johnny there, who's a Dungannon fan there, waiting to chat.
Aye. I saw that though. I was just waiting for them to finish talking. So if no one has anything else to say, we'll just bring Johnny on. Is that okay? Is that one alright with that?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Welcome, Johnny, to the space. You can I speak? Johnny, you on mute?
Hello.
Hello, Johnny.
lads. No, I completely disagree. I thought the penalty was not a penalty. If you look at it,
That should be fun.
Donnelly actually trips over the ball, and then our player wins the ball. I don't agree at all. I also think McCary is just a liability.
He's an animal, Johnny. Like, he shouldn't be allowed to play football. Boys like that there, like that's twice he sank his head into someone, isn't it?
He was on Burns.
His own player before. At least he's hitting the other team now.
I think McCoy's taking the mind games a bit too seriously. It's going for
Johnny, genuine question for you here. What's your thoughts on Dungannon so far? Do you think Dean Shields is under a wee bit of pressure because it's not happened for them so far?
No, I don't believe so at all. Everybody knows that Dungannon are a free-flowing football. They play football, quote, the correct way. I don't believe that he's under any pressure at all. Listen, we're missing two of our best players in Mays and McBreen. So if you take the two best players off any team, they're going to struggle.
I totally agree with you on McBreen and Mays, for absolutely sure. Genuine question, because obviously I follow a lot of Scottish football. What's your thoughts on Moshney?
One of the worst signings for the Swifts. He was a liability.
I had to ask
go
that.
well.
I'm sure there's a lot of Rangers fans in here that would have loved me to ask that question, so I wanted to ask it.
He was good at getting rid of the ball, but that was it.
Johnny, did Dungannon find oil underneath that pitch of yours? What's all these new signings? Where did they come from?
I would like to answer that, but I don't know. But I'm pretty impressed. Michael O'Connor being the probably standout one, but I don't know. He hasn't hit the ground running as such. He needs game time.
Is this where you tell us that young Devlin is now the next great superstar that none of us have heard of?
In my opinion, Devlin's the next Irish League player to move overseas, and that's my opinion. Like, I think he's the best young talent in the league.
I think the great thing about Dungannon is that... Oh, sorry, go on.
I have a 10 on Devlin's going to Oxford United, like all the Irish League players.
I mean, Dungannon have been blessed with so much great talent over the years, haven't they? I mean, Niall McGinn, Liam Donnelly, all played there.
Smith.
Great players. Great players.
You have
So good.
to put that into their youth setup from Joe McAree right through. Like, it's
Mhm.
the best, I would say, in the whole island of Ireland, in my opinion. At bleeding young talent through the squad.
Do you think that, sorry to cut across as well, do you think the 4G surface is going to be a big help for Dungannon this season?
I can't see why not. Like, at times last season, the pitch was on its way out, so there was no need as such to do any more work to it. So there was bobbles in the pitch. You know, it's not our style of play to hoof it like the Ballaminas and Crusaders. We keep it on the deck. So I can't see a reason why it doesn't play to our advantage.
All right. Thank you, John. Here is there anything else you want to say?
No, that's it.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on the space.
Cheers.
Nice to hear you, Johnny. All the best.
Right.
Owen,
Aye.
can we talk about Linfield tomorrow?
Sure, okay. I was going to end a couple of minutes because we ain't just playing 5 minutes, but alright.
No, that's why I wanted to drop that in now.
If you want to talk about Linfield, go on and talk about Linfield.
Look, I think tomorrow, if Linfield turn up, I think they'll win.
They should do it.
I think they will, and I know there's quite a lot of people who are like they don't want Linfield to win because Linfield will get more money and it'll make the league more of a one-team league. But if Linfield get through, apparently we keep 4 teams in European competition for 4 years.
Wow.
So if that's true, like that's massive.
Mm-hmm. Question for you guys. I mean, if David Healy takes Linfield into the group stages of a European competition, does he go down as one of the all-time greats?
I think he does.
He probably is already for Linfield. Like, you know, like every manager they have has always won everything that they can win with them. If he gets them into a group stage of European competition, he's done better than any others.
Dad, your ring stuck too.
But this is I know why you asked that question, because 2-0 up last weekend, I was thinking, wow, 2-0 up in this game away from home. This is almost sign, sealing, and delivering his wherever a League One club or something that goes, we're going to take a punt on this new Michael O'Neill. But the fact that they let it go has put a slight dampener on that, I think. And ultimately, Linfield are only here because they scored a last-minute screamer against TNS. If they don't beat TNS, they don't have the opportunity to get thumped by Bodo Glimt. I know they won one of those games. Bodo Glimt and Zurich. Like, bar that TNS game, they've lost their way lost and drew their way to this opportunity.
Yeah,
but they're here.
Yeah. To be fair, that's football.
Peter's a Glentoran fan. I know the way he talks.
Poor soul.
I mean, you look at tomorrow night's game just very quickly. You know, you look at that Linfield team. This is where guys like Chris Shields and Jamie Mulgrew, Matthew Clark, and that lot of experience playing in the biggest stages. This is where they come alive tomorrow night. This is the game tomorrow night whereby they need to really be playing, in particular, at the top of their game. Particularly Shields, who has obviously been there and got a side into European competition in the past with Dundalk. You know, it's a wonderful opportunity for Linfield. And there will be people in the chat who don't want Linfield to get through. I think it would be an incredible story for Northern Irish football if Linfield were to make it through. Do I think they will? I think it's 50-50. The first goal for me tomorrow, I think, will set the tone for the match. It would be an incredible story if Linfield got through.
But do they got the bottle?
The thing is, if Linfield go through, you'll never hear the end of it. Like 50 years later, they'll still be talking about it.
It changes the league forever. Forever if they get through. It'll be a fulcrum point where we're like, it was before Linfield got into Europe and after. And that's not just because this fantasy that maybe Linfield will dominate the league forever. It's the if you are a player, maybe League Two, you're looking at Linfield in the Europa Conference League, you're like, maybe I could, maybe the Irish League's for me, and it will help rise other teams. And
That's
it's
what I was going
more.
to say.
What it's more though if Linfield get in and other teams see, oh my goodness, all we need to do is win the league.
They
If we
could
win
do
the
it, why
league
can't
and
we?
if we win the league by chance, and then all we need to do is beat, I don't know, the Moldovan champions over 2 legs in the Champions League, then we can lose against those other teams, and then we've got a playoff against the Maltese champions, and then we're in the gold man. That's what changes. And two, it's what clubs who can't afford it will do to try and get what Linfield got, the 3 million. And we saw it in the League of Ireland, where we had these crazy stories of Cork going all the way up to the top and going back down again and going all the way back up. I'm sure younger people know of the story of Sporting Fingal, who won the FAI Cup, the Irish Cup, and then they folded. It's if Linfield gets in there, all eyes on Larne and Glentoran, because what are they going to do to try and compete?
That's a good point. I'll be honest. I wasn't thinking of that, to be fair. Like we might see a lot of clubs fold here more if Linfield get in.
I know it's a bit of scaremongering. I know that. I'm just, you look at it and go, this is the bounty.
Well, I look at it in a more of an opportunist way. I almost look at it as a way as to say, well, Linfield are the benchmark for Northern Irish football. They could do it. Why can't we? I always have like that David Jeffrey mentality in my own mind about what are we going to do? Are we just going to accept it? You almost kind of have to find different ways that you can get to showcase your potential. And of course, money has a big say in that. But, there's no reason why this cannot unlock the door for more opportunities for the likes of a Glentoran, a Larne, a Crusaders, a Coleraine to compete and try and get in as well. Because I think it's a fantastic opportunity. It could unlock a lot of doors for Northern Irish football. That's just my very humble and extremely optimistic opinion, perhaps.
Can I ask a question to Peaky? As right now the league's set up as like the two best teams are Coleraine and Linfield, is there a part of you that thinks, go on lads, get into Europe there, enjoy your trip to Estonia and wherever it is, Lithuania, and hopefully you'll come back and you'll get beat, and we'll just be smooth sailing, taking out Ballymena as you go along towards a Gibson Cup for Kearney?
Oh, Peter, I want Linfield in the Europa Conference. Like they've already, from after tomorrow, they'll have played 8 extra games. If they get into the conference, that's a further 6 extra games. At some stage, fatigue's going to kick into that squad.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly because they've got a very big squad, and I think they'll be able to compartmentalise what's important, which is the league. And I don't think, personally, Linfield are a very professional club. They still have a lot of players that will really target the big competitions. The league will be obviously the bread and butter. But
that's not fitting my narrative here. I'm trying to make out fucking blow up like.
Well, I just play devil's advocate here.
Well, look, I'll be up tomorrow night, and
listen, it's a fantastic opportunity for them. And, be interested to see how they go. But the other side, RFS, they'll also be looking at it as an opportunity for them, to get into the Conference League. It's going to be a fascinating match to see who wins out. It's going to be a lot of nervous energy, I think, around Windsor tomorrow, especially if Linfield don't start particularly well. It could be a very nervous night. But if they start well, it could be a fantastic one.
Before we end the space here, I have a DM from a Linfield fan. He says, "We will create the chances tomorrow night. If we take a few, we will win. We're hard to beat at home, which is fair enough." And what do you guys think of Jordan Stewart, the Larne rumours? And he just says we're doing a great job. So, Jordan Stewart, the Larne, just before we end the space, what do we think?
I think it's extremely intriguing. Larne have got some really interesting players in that sort of midfield area. Is Stewart going to play that number 10 role? That's possibly where I feel he is best at playing. Larne have already brought in guys like Shea Gordon from Partick Thistle as an example. Leroy Miller's come in. It's another attacking option. But I mean, I don't know if this is the rumour that he was going to come in and Sule was to go out. There was a lot of talk about that. If that is the case, then I genuinely think, and it's just my opinion, I think Sule would be a massive loss to Larne.
Sule's great as like that shithouse player that like just engine.
He gets stuck in.
Aye. He's great at getting inside the opponent's head. If Larne get rid of him, they'll miss that.
Linfield
100%.
don't need Sule, but
Yeah, we know in Linfield it'll be nice to have him.
but they don't need him.
I would probably agree
Linfield
with
don't
that.
need anyone. They don't really need anyone, do they?
Maybe a goalkeeper. Nah, John's a good keeper, but they don't have a backup really for Johns. You know what I mean? Linfield are too strong. Too strong. They'll win the league. Fuck this. I'm away.
If you know what, if they do get in, they've got a few days to spend the money. What do they do? They go, right, we're through, we've got it. What do we do? On the Jordan Stewart thing, look, I'm no insider. I know nothing. I know as much as you guys. But one thing you got to look at is Jordan Stewart was struggling to get into that team last year, and he was frustrated at the end of last season. I've never seen a player more angry about scoring a goal when he got that first goal against Warren Point, where they eventually won 2-1. He was like, "This is why you should have been starting me from the beginning." And he started this season, and he's not starting. And you've got Joel Cooper, who's absolutely nailed on to play. I think on that left of the three. On the right of the three, it's going to be a mix of McKee or Vertanen or whatever, and then at the minute it's McDavid, who's not nailed on. If I was a Larne fan, I would love to have Jordan Stewart. He's still one of the best attacking players. If you're Linfield, you'd want to keep on to him, but maybe it's more than just playing time. Maybe it's just he's lost the run of it, and he's just not. He just wants to move on, and maybe he wants a fresh start.
I think Larne, if Larne do get him, they said, what is his position? I think it's a number 10. I don't think he's an out-and-out centre forward. But he might offer something a bit different to what they have. I don't know, but I just think that, Sule in the midfield, if that was the reason, because I know that he was being linked as a potential swap deal. Whether that's the case, I don't know. I'm just saying this because that's what I thought was happening. But if that is the case and it is a swap deal, then I can see why Larne would go for him, but I also see what they would miss if Sule did move on.
Big time.
So just before the end of space here, is there anything else you two want to say?
Thank you. I've very much enjoyed this. Cheers for asking me on. Had a great time.
I think I say the same. Thanks for inviting us on. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's great to be involved with a really strong Irish League community. We're all watching it from all over the place. I'm watching it here from Scotland, and it's fascinating to watch. It'll be really interesting tomorrow night to see how Linfield get on, and it will be really, really interesting. So thanks very much for inviting us on to chat about it.
No bother. Piggy, do you or Oisin want to say anything?
Nah, Oisin says what you say, Oisin. Nah, Oisin's not arsed. He doesn't want to say anything. Listen. I'll be up in Windsor tomorrow night, and I hope one way or another it's a memorable night. So right, I'm out of here. I'm going to watch a bit of Champions League qualifying.
So thank you everyone for tuning on to the Spears. The next one's probably going to be at Sunday at 9 p.m. But we don't know that for sure. So again, just thank you everyone for coming on the Space. And yeah, good night. Hope you all have a good night and all that. Enjoy the Champions League.